enlightenment. We talk about Brahma's cave and the pituitary gland. It is deeply locked up how important it is, how our mind thinks. And right now, we're not thinking. We're totally embedded into these belief systems and identified to the point to where we go out and blow people up, get killed, kill. And I think a lot of us are waking up. I talk to people all the time, and more people are coming to this realization that we need to lighten up and let go of some of our old beliefs.
All right. West of the Rockies, Tina in Reno. Hope everything is okay up there in northern Nevada. Tina?
Yes, thank you so much, gentlemen, for giving me the opportunity.
Sure.
Of course, I'm going to defend the Bible because I don't believe in religion, but I believe the Bible is the Word of God. And with we asking Him directly, and He gives us His Spirit, He will guide us into all truth. And whereas, I wanted to make 2 points. Where it says about the sacrifice of Abraham, God asked him to prove his faith, right, by killing his son. But that was before He gave us the 10 Commandments, so now we know that if somebody asks us to kill our kids, we're going to know it's not from God, because that was before the 10 Commandments, right? And another point I wanted to make that a lot of people say, we don't follow the Old Testament. Well, in the Old Testament, there were a lot of laws, and those laws were, I'm a little nervous, those laws were from men, like not eating pig and all that. We don't follow that. That's men's law. But there are some laws that were from God, and they're abomination to God, and those laws will never change, and we still go by the law. But like I said, the only way we're going to know is with the Spirit, because God is a God of balance. We're not going to go extremes. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, a lot of people do, though, Tina. A lot of people do take the beliefs to the extremes, in the examples we've been talking.
It's not from God. They really have to be in the Spirit. They really want to have to know the truth, and that God will guide you into all truth.
Yeah, I think you find Muslims who believe as fervently in their version of the truth as you have Christians who believe in theirs and Jews who believe in theirs. Which one is the true one? I think the point our guest is making is that we should. It's a healthy thing to question the beliefs.
Just one more thing
sure.
Before I go. When it talks about death many times in the Bible, it talks about a spiritual death. It means death. It means when that we will not inherit the kingdom of God. That's what it says, but it doesn't mean that you have to kill or, although those things happen in the Old Testament because there were wars and things that they have to fight for it. But, yes.
Hey, Tina, thank you for the call. Rahasya, your reaction. I mean, you have a nice lady like Tina who calls up, and you can tell from just the whole demeanor that it works for her.
Right, and if, you can cherry pick through any book and pick out things that you agree with, and that's what we've been doing for centuries. And we just sort of ignore what we don't agree with. But just the fact alone that most Christians are born in a Christian country and most Islamic people are born in Islamic countries should tell you right there that our beliefs aren't from God. They're from the culture, the society that we're raised in. And our society is made of men and women. And just that point alone should point out that it's not by divine inspiration that we have a basis for any of these religions.
So you have Muslims, Christians who convert to Islam in America. You have people like Cat Stevens becomes a Muslim living in England. But in general, that's a rarity.
Yeah, that's... there's exceptions to every rule, but for the most part, if you're born in the United States, you're probably going to end up Catholic or Protestant.
All right, we've got a lot of people on the phone lines. When we come back, we'll go to the first-time caller line and then our wild card lines. A lot of people on the phones with questions for my guest, Rahasya Poe, whose book, To Believe or Not to Believe, The Social and Neurological Consequences of Belief Systems, is out now. We have some links on the Coast to Coast website that you can check out. And are we going to the break now? Are we okay? Okay, we're going to the break right now. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Stay with us here on Coast to Coast AM. Is there a way to reconcile the differences between science and religion and spirituality, to believe in some factual way that we do live on forever beyond this life? We'll get into that and more and get to as many of your questions as possible with my guest, Rahasya Poe. right after this on Coast to Coast AM. Rahasya Poe, before we go back to the phones, one quick question. What has meditation told you about the soul? Have you come to believe or accept or question the idea of an eternal soul that lives on after this life, that may go to a heaven or hell, or maybe those two locations are irrelevant to the conversation?
Well, it's not irrelevant, but it does bring up the point where at this point in my life, I'm getting more comfortable with I don't know. This is a journey for me, a journey through the mystery of life, and I don't feel compelled to make up a belief. And to answer your question directly, I don't know. I'm still in that journey of discovery for myself.
Fair enough. First-time caller, James in Cleveland. Welcome to the show, James.
Hi, George.
Hi.
Hi, Mr. Poe. I had one comment. I want to thank you for your guest, too. It seems like he's read up on the Bible. He's read different books and done a lot of study. I just had one comment and just one quick question.
Sure.
It seems like our leaders and the leaders across the world are experts at manipulating the minds and actions of people. And I just wanted to ask your guest if he doesn't believe that any of Christianity is worthwhile, or I don't know if he said worthwhile, but if he doesn't believe that it's something that is beneficial, we're just rejecting and going back towards the days of Noah and the days when Christ was here when they rejected him. And the question I had for him was, if we reject that light, what gets filled in that vacuum for humanity?
Good question.
Well, and again, this is the danger of not looking at all of this. Actually, if you would sit down and talk to me at length, you would see that a lot of my interest in religion would probably be resonant with Gnostic Christianity. In other words, a knowing. The Gnostics their whole basis was experience and knowing, not beliefs, but actually experiencing. And that's the whole basis for me, is just personal experience. What can I personally experience? And, one thing I'd like to clear up here is I have over 200 emails in my inbox, and quite a few of them are asking me, how is it that something like the Anunnakis and the Sumerian tablets are mixing into this conversation? And I think a lot of what people don't realize is even the Vatican, Monsignor Corrado Balducci met with Zachariah Sitchin here a few years ago. And Monsignor Corrado Balducci, he was a leading exorcist for the Archdiocese of Rome, Vatican's Beatification Committee, expert on demonology, but he was appointed by the Vatican to deal with UFOs and extraterrestrials. And when he met with Zachariah Sitchin, who is a linguist, a Hebrew scholar, they agreed on three things. Yes, extraterrestrials can and do exist on other planets. Yes, they can be more advanced than us. And yes, materially, man could have been fashioned from pre-existing sentient beings here on the planet. And I think the Catholic, the Vatican in particular, they're positioning themselves because they know that this information is going to come out, because what's happened in the last 50 years, we have more secular archaeologists. Up to that point, it was Judeo-Muslim Christian archaeologists primarily that thought that the Earth was 6,000 years old, and it really put a cap on all of the archaeological finds. But over this past 50 years, they found over 30,000 Sumerian tablets that clearly point to the fact that we have had intervention from an advanced race. Like the Epic of Creation is the Genesis story. The Epic of Gilgamesh is the Noah story, the flood story. So as we take all of these things into account, a lot of what's going on with me and the reason for writing this book is preparing us, because I think we're getting ready for contact again, because once you accept the fact that we've been contacted before, UFOs are real, and we're not the only beings in the whole universe, and that they've been here before, then it stands to reason that they will be here again, and they have been here many times. Stephen,
well, it kind of goes back to what you were talking about discussing intelligent design, how it's not necessarily at odds with scientific beliefs, but
right.
The fundamentalists who believe in intelligent design are ready to declare that God is the creator, and maybe they might be surprised on the other end when you look at the beliefs or the theories of cutting-edge cosmologists who believe in the multiverse, that eventually super races can exist and create their own universes. Some of the fundamentalists who believe in intelligent design might be upset to know that the person who created a particular universe might not be God.
Right. It might be us in the future.
Yeah.
There's so much that's going to open up to us, but again, we need to basically reformat the hard drive that we call our brain and open ourselves up to this new level of awareness, this new consciousness. I think the Christians had it right many, many centuries ago when they said the return of Christ, but the word Christ is depicting a level of consciousness. And I think there is a Christ consciousness that we're going to evolve into, but it has nothing to do with Christianity per se, but it has a whole lot to do with what that particular man named Jesus probably saw coming. And many, 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 many messiahs and teachers and spiritual leaders have seen this for centuries, and we're standing right on the precipice of this happening. Like the Mayan calendar is going to run out next year. And the same people, the same beings that gave them that calendar, told them when the calendar runs out, we will return. This is the return of the gods. And I think it's time we take this serious. And actually, Stephen Greer of the Disclosure Project, he has 400 people together. A lot of them are generals, lieutenants, top military people, people that work in the towers at airports, professional observers that have had experiences and interactions with UFOs and beings from another planet. And they're willing to testify in front of Congress about all of this. But Congress does not want to do this. But countries like France, Germany, Belgium, Mexico, Bolivia, Brazil, there's a lot of countries that are opening their files, and yes, they're saying, yes, we have had interactions, and here's what they are, and it's time to open up. And I know just in the past 20 years, it's gone from 60 to 80% of Americans believe that there are such a thing as UFOs and extraterrestrials, and say that they would have no problem with finding this out.
Well, that opens up a whole other can of worms, and we could spend a whole program on that, is that, scientists say that people who believe in UFOs are searching for their own religion, that, of course, they're crazy or misguided or mistaken, whereas, a lot of people who've had these experiences would say that science is its own religion these days, that it doesn't look, it's a belief system unto itself. It doesn't look at these experiences in a fair way.
Well, and I would totally agree with that based upon what I'm talking about as far as beliefs, but I did have a UFO experience, which I consider a really valuable experience in my life because it took me to the level of saying, okay, I don't have to wonder if this is for real. I mean, it was 30 feet away for about a minute,